Welcome to our invisible universe. No, it's not just mine. I was just instrumental in showing some of the invisible bits of it, as I hopefully will be showing you today. And this is one of my books, still available on, what's that thing called? Amazon.com. Yeah. I'm looking to my better half here when the old memory goes, so forgive me on that one. And thank you. This some of the news and paper and magazine articles that have been about my work over the years. Just to give you an idea of how many years. I was in America, oh, there you are. I was in America a few years back, and after one of the presentations, a young lady ran up to me, with one of my books actually, and said, would you actually sign this for my mother, please? And I said, certainly, young lady. Got the pen there, and she said, I have to ask you though, are you Harry Oldfield Sr. or Harry Oldfield Jr.? And I said, well, my lady, I'm the only Harry Oldfield that I know of. And she said, oh, thank God for that, because my mother said you were dead. And because you've been in this work so long that he must be dead by now, and that it was his son that I was going to see this evening. Well, I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, rumours of my death have been greatly exaggerated over the years, and I want you to put it out there. You saw him live on stage. Okay. Right, now, before we go on to my experiments at Stonehenge with these invisible energies, I must tell you where it all began with earth energy and, if you like, eternal knowledge, my first experience of eternal knowledge, which came from the Rollright stone circles in the 1970s. And, I have to, keep back of the speakers. And it was something called the Dragon Project, instigated by Paul Devereaux. You'll see some of his videos over there. Author of Earthlights, wonderful researcher. And I was invited by him personally, as a young scientist, to come over and do some Curlian photography and measurements at the Rollright stone circles, at equinoxes and solstices. And I was so enthusiastic one winter solstice that I turned up much earlier than the rest of the crew. And it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And pretty frosty. I had my lamp and my boots on and everything, as you see me now. Probably the same boots, actually. But had an Austin A40 in them days. Would have been worth a fortune if I kept it. And I walked to the Kingstone there, and I started to hook up my Curlian gear, ready to take a picture in a little dark room I made for the to stick onto the stone, so I'd get some emanations as soon as sun rose. And as I looked back, I could see a dark shape bounding towards me in the darkness, from the darkness. And it was a huge black hound, a black dog. And I just presumed it had been, you know, a farmer's dog that had caught me on the breeze and had come out to investigate. But a pretty big sheepdog, I can tell you. It was bigger than an Irish wolfhound and all black. And he came next to me, and I'm a very friendly person when it comes to animals. Took off my glove, and hello, boy, you know. And suddenly, as I went through his fur onto his skin, on his head, you know that sensation you get when you're slightly damp on your fingers, you go into a freezer and grab a frozen peas and they stick to you. It's that cold. Well, I got that feeling, and I immediately contracted and said, gosh, boy, I said, you're freezing cold. You should be in front of a lovely warm fire, getting warm. And I just thought, well, I'll just carry on. And I'm finding this electrode very difficult to get into this crevice, and I'm giving it all the welly. And suddenly, I've got a face with snarling teeth on this side of me. And I looked to him very carefully and respectfully. And I said, I don't know where the words came from. And I said, I'm sorry, boy, I'm not trying to hurt the stone. I'm trying to learn from it. and he stopped snarling, although I didn't hear any snarling, it was just the teeth I saw, and looked back at the stone to make sure I hadn't trembled so much I'd knocked the electrode out, looked back to where he was, and he had absolutely vanished. And then the old scientific mind comes in. Why was it that I could see my breath in the torchlight, but not his breath? He was a big animal. He should have been billowing lots of steam. And I got a little bit spooked because I was looking down at where he was, and remember, it was crunchy grass, frosty time. And not a blade of grass, I swear, ladies and gentlemen, was trampled. This was a time for a cup of coffee back in my A40. And I think it was Radio Caroline in them days. Goes back a long way. Tony Blackburn, for those old enough to remember. Yeah. And I put that radio really loud, locked the doors of the car, and drank my coffee. Yeah, no, can't, you know, it was a farm dog. It had to have been a farm dog. But I went back there, checked the electrodes, and there were no footprints or anything. All my footprints were everywhere, but not the dog's. So people start to arrive about, 5, 6 o'clock, and we did all the readings, fantastic pictures and everything of the circles, and the sound waves coming out of the circles were detected at sunrise. Wonderful. And then I was asked by Paul Darrow, oh, you were here nice and early, I understand. You were the first one here. And I said, yes, Paul, but I wasn't the first living thing here. And I told him the story I've just told you. He looked at me very strangely, called over a local folklorist of the area, L-O-R-E, by the way, not solicitor. I sometimes need those, but well, that won't talk anything about it. And I told him the story, and he looked at Paul, and he said, yes, this young man is I was young in them days, the only young man I know to have touched the hound from hell, Black Shep, and lived. The last fatality of the Stone Circle Guardian of that area of the country was back in the early 1930s, where a local, coming back from the pub one evening, relieving himself against that stone, was found with his throat torn out the next morning when they sent out a search party. And I think the coroners said that it must have been animals escaped from a zoo, a menagerie, because the bite size was too large for a domestic or wild animal indigenous to this country. So you're more than welcome at my workshop later this afternoon to shake the hand that touched the hound from hell. Okay, thank you everybody for your patience. Now, here I am doing a study at the very famous Stonehenge Circle. And would you agree, ladies and gentlemen, that to all intents and purposes, these stones are solid? They are real, yes? Okay, I'll hold you to that, because using some of my special filtration devices in front of a digital camera, that is the result. Now, you have to be in the right place at the right time to get results with our filters, because they will be, later this afternoon, available for people to buy and experiment with for the rest of your life, if you like. Well, the life of the filter. And there's another one that was taken, was showing the background. Now, those of you that know anything about the writings of the time of Julius Caesar will, on Tacitus, the Romans were terrified of the Druids. Now, why should they? They weren't that warrior-like. They were very fierce, the tribes that the Druids controlled. But they weren't that much of a contesting against the Roman legions. They were terrified of their knowledge, of their mystical knowledge, their eternal knowledge, if you like.